Thank you, Father John, and good evening to you all. I have to apologise in advance because I have a sort of a chest infection, and that combined with my Kerry accent might make me difficult to listen to, so I hope all goes okay. So I have to say that up front that I feel a bit of a fraud up here because I'm not a holy Joe. I make mistakes, I sin like everybody else. Probably more than most people in this church, to be honest. But I agreed to speak because I've been very lucky in my life. And I put that luck down to my faith. The firm belief that there is a higher power. And that higher power loves me, protects me, and wants me to achieve my objectives in life. That higher power is Jesus Christ. My view in life has been shaped by some great people I met along the journey. And one of the things that's consistent with the people that influenced me was their value system, their belief system. None more so than my soulmate Beatrice. She was a woman of deep, deep faith. Although she didn't flaunt it, she didn't push it in your face, she didn't judge those who had a different faith, or indeed those who claim not to believe at all. We were together for 30 years, married for 25. As Father John said, we have 3 wonderful children, Patrick, Claudia, and Christopher. But sadly, in October 2022, Beatrice passed away after a very brave battle with cancer. Out of the blue, at the age of 52, she was told she only had 4 weeks to live. And when the doctors left the room, she turned to me and she said, "Don't be upset. I accept the will of God, but I do not accept the doctors' timelines. We have an awful lot to do, and God is going to give us time to do those things. All we need is faith." I was angry. I said, "But we do have faith." And that's when she asked me the most simplistic, yet the most profound question of our 30 years together, when she asked, "What is the point of having faith if we don't use it?" She was absolutely right. We were to get 12 months more than the most optimistic medical opinion. At her funeral mass, I was trying to come up with a form of words that would properly describe her faith. And then Father John, in his wonderful homily that day, nailed it when he said, Beatrice had a wonderful relationship with Jesus Christ. There's an old Irish shanachal that, when translated into English, tells us, in life, if we don't stand for something, we'll fall for anything. Beatrice stood for something. She stood for that relationship with Jesus Christ. And it was that close friendship that helped her cope with her illness and her death. I grew up on a small dairy farm outside Castleisland, County Kerry. We were out in the sticks, as they say, halfway up a mountain. A bit like where I'm living in Collection at the moment. But there was 11 of us in this 2-bedroomed farm cottage. 4 boys, 4 girls, my mom and dad, and my grandmother. We didn't have electricity in the house. We didn't have running water. We didn't have a toilet in the house. And yet we believed that we were one of the luckiest families in the country. Because every night in the rosary, we prayed for people that were less well off than we were. So for a 7-year-old boy listening to my mom praying like this, if we were praying for people less well off, then we must be better off. Of course, we didn't judge our wealth in terms of material possessions, because we didn't have any. We judged it in terms of family, in terms of fun, in terms of laughter. We judged it in terms of health and happiness. So I was talking to my brother Tom this morning. He rang me to wish me luck tonight. Tom is a great guy. He's a De La Salle brother based down in Waterford. And he said, you have to tell them tonight the great story about the lamb stew. I'd forgotten about it. Anyway, I was 10 years of age when this happened. Tom was 12. He was 2 years older than me. And on this particular day, everybody else was gone Irish dancing. Myself and Tom were too macho to go Irish dancing, or so we thought. One of the biggest regrets of my life, because now when I'm on a dance floor, I look more like Mr. Bean than Mr. Flatley. But anyway, so Mom came down to us this day and she said that our neighbour, Danny the Yank, was home from America, and that Dad had invited him around for supper this evening. And she said, this creates a serious problem because there's very little in the house. Very little in the house. She said, I have vegetables, I have potatoes, I have a small bit of mutton, so I'm going to make a lamb stew. She said, but there won't be enough to go around to everybody, so when I ask you guys to join us for supper, I would appreciate a polite decline. That's the way she put it, a polite decline. So anyway, we see the yank arrive into the house, and we go up to the house, and after the usual pleasantries, my mother turns around to myself and Tom, and she says, lads, you'll join us for a bit of supper. And Tom is in like Flynn, and he says, no, Mom, we've been eating all afternoon. He says, we're as full as butcher's dogs. The truth was, my belly was touching my backbone. I was starving. And the smell of the stew was just incredible, right? Tom goes down the yard to bring up the cows, to milk the cows, and I stay on to watch the yank eating all our stew. And then my mother turned to me. Actually, she brought out a bowl of jelly and hot custard for the yank. And she turned to me and she said, Davy, will you join us for dessert? I had forgotten the pact that we made earlier on. And I said, yeah, Mom, that would be lovely. Dessert would be lovely. And as quick as a light, she said, well, you can't, because you wouldn't eat your dinner. That's a true story. Mothers are great people anyway, but my mother was born in the 20s, and she knew how to handle herself. She was brilliant. But the seeds of my love for entrepreneurship and business was most definitely sown around our kitchen table, our dinner table, our supper table. My father would wax lyrically about some person who took a risk, started a business, made it successful, and created jobs for people in the community. He used to say to us, it must be one of the greatest privileges of all time to offer another human being employment. And in doing so, give them the independence to live the life they want to live. Give them the freedom to raise the family they want to raise. Give them the ability to leave the legacy they want to leave. My mother was years upon years ahead of her time. She spoke about visualization long before it became a term in business or a tool for high-performing athletes. She would say to us, whatever you want to achieve in life, no matter how difficult it is, no matter how big it is, no matter how challenging it is, the first thing you do, you close your eyes and you visualize success. You see success. And then you have to take positive action to make it happen. If you don't take positive action, it remains a dream. I've always linked faith and visualization. For some reason, I see visualization as faith in 3D. And then my father would join the conversation about success and achievement. And he'd say, whatever you do in life, avoid negative, pessimistic people. Energy vampires, he would call them. They'd suck the energy out of a great idea and leave behind an empty shell. I followed their advice all my life because I know this. When we're making big decisions, there's a window when the fear of failure can be a stronger emotion than the hope of success. That's when we need to be surrounded by positive people. That's when we need faith. That's when we need to visualize success. I've lost my notes here now. I studied agricultural science in UCD, and that's what brought me here to Carlow. I came to join a fantastic agribusiness based in that picturesque village of Burris at the south of the county, at the foot of Mount Leinster. In truth, I went into Keenan's as green as a grasshopper. And thanks to the mentoring and leadership of people there, especially a man that I became very close to, from Bagenstown by the name of Louis Carney, a great, great man. I think his wife might be in the crowd tonight. But a brilliant man. I learned so much from Louis. But I stayed in Keenan's for 14 years, and I left Keenan's with a toolbox of business tools that was going to allow us to set up NetWatch. We didn't set up NetWatch to make big revenues or big profits. That was never our motivation. In my view, that should never be the motivation of a startup. It should be the result. The result of doing the right things and doing those things better than anybody else in the world. NetWatch rose from the ashes of three great Carlow companies, Irish Sugar, Braun, Lapple. Our motivation was to build a global organisation, build it here in Carlow, and create employment and play our role to fill the void left by those three great companies. Having said all that, we had extraordinary success, extraordinary growth, as Katrina pointed out earlier. And I'm often asked, what is the reason for that success? And there are many, many reasons, of course. But if I was to bring it down to one single reason, I'd say culture. Culture is the gap between strategy and execution. It's the people in the organization and how they behave, how they treat other people, and how they treat people within the organization itself. I'm under no illusion. Our greatest success was our ability to attract into the organization really high quality people, forward thinking people, ambitious people, passionate people, but most importantly, great men, great women who shared the same core values as the founders. I followed my father's advice to the letter of the law, and we only employed people who had a natural positive disposition in life, people who could handle change, people who could take ownership when things went wrong. In short, we were only taking on leaders. Now, leadership has nothing got to do with rank, power, title, authority. It's none of those things. It's our ability as individuals, and every single person, even in this room, church tonight, have leadership qualities. It's our ability to influence others to deliver positive outcomes. And leadership is entwined with integrity. And as I said to NetWatch employees on hundreds of occasions, integrity is not a bottomless pit. We need, as organizations and individuals, to continue to invest in our own integrity. As organizations, we invest in our own integrity by being true to our mission statement, being true to the motivation of the founders, being true to why the organization exists in the first place. As individuals, we invest in our own integrity by always doing the right thing when nobody is looking. If we do the right thing when nobody is looking, it gives us moral authority. And moral authority is far, far more powerful than any title that you get in an organization. And as we built that NetWatch team, we made a great discovery. And the discovery is this: when you surround yourself with people who believe what you believe, people who can visualize what you visualize, a great thing happens. Trust breaks out in the organization. And when trust breaks out in an organization, people come to work for what they can give, not just for what they can get. Because in reality, they're coming to work for themselves. Because they are responding to that higher power. They're responding to a set of values, a set of beliefs, a sense of belonging. When people come to work under those conditions, we have a serious competitive advantage. But please don't get me wrong. NetWatch is not a lovey-dovey organization. Far from it. It's a high-performance organization where people are respected. A high-performance organization that does not see Christian values as making you soft. Quite the opposite. It sees Christian values as growth accelerators. I'm going to conclude, as I started, referencing my soulmate Beatrice. And I'm going to take a real risk here tonight and share something with you that happened shortly before her death. It's risky because it's very private and personal to Patrick, Clodagh, Christopher, and myself. But I share it in the hope that it might be of value to others going through the same journey that we went through. As Beatrice came to her final days, she drifted very, very peacefully, very gently into a deep, deep sleep. A good friend of mine said to me that although Beatrice can't speak to you anymore, she can still hear you in this deep sleep phase. So as a family, we availed of the opportunity to tell her how much we loved her, thanked her for the enormous positive contribution that she had made to our lives, thanked her for being a brilliant mom, an outstanding wife, a really powerful supporting partner. I'm not ashamed here tonight to say that I asked her when she got to heaven that she would continue to protect our family as she did so brilliantly for a quarter of a century. We weren't sure, not really sure, if she could hear us until we got a great sign. Shortly before she passed away, the chaplain in the hospital came into the room. He anointed Beatrice with the oils, and we prayed together. At the end of the prayers, a most beautiful thing happened. Beatrice blessed herself, making the perfect sign of the cross. What a wonderful way to enter the kingdom of heaven, acknowledging the sacrifice made by her great friend so that she could have eternal life. I share this not to shock anybody, but purely to bear witness. Bear witness to the faith of an extraordinary woman. Bear witness to the value of having Jesus Christ as a friend. And probably most of all, bear witness to the fact that it is in our hour of greatest need that his friendship has its greatest value. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, David. I think that applause says everything. I know it's been my privilege as well to be able to journey with Beatrice in her final months of this life as well, to be able to witness firsthand the huge, deep faith that she had, her personal relationship with Jesus. She was an inspiration. So I invite you now to all please stand, and I'm going to invite Shauna and Edwina